Chapter 1. The Lotus Blooms. Let us begin in a time long before ours, a time of gold and sand, of shadow and sun, a time when the greater Nile flowed like a ribbon of life through the heart of Egypt. It is early morning. The desert air is still cool. The sun has not yet fully crested the horizon, but the sky is already a watercolor wash of soft oranges and pale blues. The waters of the Nile are silent, unbothered, reflecting the faint blush of dawn, and drifting there on the surface of the river are delicate blue lotus flowers. Their petals, still damp with dew, slowly begin to open, as if awakening with the sun. This flower, known to the ancients as seishen, was more than beautiful. It was sacred, symbolic, and intoxicating. The ancient Egyptians revered the blue lotus. It was not merely decoration. It was not simply a plant. It was a bridge dash between the waking and the dreaming, between the earthly and the divine. Priests carved it into the walls of temples. Pharaohs painted it on the arms of their thrones. Lovers placed it in each other's hair. In every corner of Egyptian life, from the royal to the rural, the blue lotus bloomed. And it did more than soothe the eye. It soothed the mind. Modern science tells us that the blue lotus contains aporphine and nuciferine, compounds that promote calmness and euphoria. But to the Egyptians, it was something more. They didn't measure its value in molecules. They felt its power in dreams, in visions, in rituals by candlelight, in slow conversations that drifted like the river from one moment to the next. They believed the lotus could awaken the spirit, soften the edges of the world, and carry the soul to places words could not reach. A man sits by the water. He is not a priest. He is not a king. He is a potter. A quiet man with dust on his feet and calluses on his palms. He holds a lotus flower in his fingers, delicately, as if it might disappear at the wrong touch. He raises it to his nose, inhales, not deeply, just enough for the fragrance to reach the memory. He closes his eyes, and for a moment, he is not sitting on the edge of the Nile. He is elsewhere, somewhere softer. The world slows. This is what the lotus did. It did not strike like wine or sting like spirits. It drifted in like mist through reeds, like perfume through linen, like memory through silence. Some brewed it into tea, some steeped it in wine, some dried it, then crushed it gently and smoked it in hollow reeds. There was no rush, no hunger for oblivion. This was not about escape. It was about access to dreams, to symbols, to the liminal places between day and night, between body and soul. The blue lotus was not confined to temples. It appeared at banquets too, at weddings, at celebrations beneath the moon. There are frescoes painted nearly 4,000 years ago that show guests reclining on cushions, lotus flowers tucked behind their ears, smiling in slow conversation, their eyes half lidded, their bodies relaxed, and on the table before them, wine poured from clay jugs painted with scenes of flowers and gods. The wine was not strong, but when steeped with lotus petals, it became a vessel of stillness, a sacred brew for sacred rest. Some drank alone, in gardens walled with sandstone, where date palms swayed gently in the heat, and birds sang songs without urgency. There, beneath painted parasols, they sipped their lotus wine slowly, not to forget, but to remember what it meant to feel the world in quiet detail, the warmth of the stone, the texture of the linen, the scent of myrrh on a passing breeze, all of it heightened, not with frenzy, but with peace. In temples, the lotus had deeper purposes still. Priests inhaled its smoke before rituals, not to become drunk, but to become receptive to the voices of the gods, to dreams, to messages passed not in language, but in sensation. The gods of Egypt were not distant. They whispered in scents, in shadows, in slow waves of knowing. And the lotus, they believed, was a key to hearing those whispers. It is said that when Osiris died, the lotus bloomed where his body lay, that from death came beauty, and from stillness, clarity. In tombs, blue lotus petals were buried with the dead, folded into linen wrappings, placed in painted jars, scattered around the feet of the departed, not as decoration, but as guides for the soul's journey into the field of reeds, into the endless dream of the afterlife. A young woman sits by the window of her home. It is evening now. The light has turned gold, and the breeze carries with it the scent of lotus from the courtyard pool. She reaches for a small ceramic cup. It holds wine, and within it, a single lotus petal floats. She drinks, then sets the cup down and leans back against the cushion. The room is quiet. The world outside hums softly. Her thoughts do not vanish, but they loosen like silk unwinding from a spool. She thinks of her mother and of the day she first smelled lotus. She thinks of the temple and of the stories told to her as a child. She does not fall asleep, but neither is she fully awake. She is somewhere in between, where dreams begin to breathe and time loses its teeth. To get high in ancient Egypt was not to flee. It was to arrive gently, deliberately, with eyes half closed and senses open. It was to remember that the world is not made only of stone and fire, but also of scent, of music, of the slow exhale that follows a long day. The lotus was not dangerous. It was not feared. It was revered, for it taught stillness, and from stillness came vision. Vision not of the stars above, but of the soul within. So if you ever drift on the edge of sleep, with the hush of night around you, and the scent of something sweet on the air, know that you are not alone. You are with the potter by the Nile, with the bride in the garden, with the priest in the temple, and all of them are blooming with the lotus. Chapter 2. Smoke on the altar. The sun is higher now, but the air within the temple remains cool, thick with shadow, quiet with reverence. We step from the brightness of the courtyard into a space carved from time itself. Columns rise like petrified trees, their surfaces etched with the stories of gods, of Isis and Horus and Ra. Each figure locked in silent profile, their faces turned toward eternity. There is no breeze here, only the hush of sandals against stone, and the distant murmur of chanting, soft as a memory. In the center of the sanctuary, a small brazier glows. Coals burn low, without flame. A gentle heat, not fierce, but enduring. And from the coals, a slow stream of smoke begins to rise. It does not rush. It curls, wanders, unfolds itself like silk. The smoke is not ordinary. It is Kai-Fi, a sacred incense, a recipe handed down over centuries. Part perfume, part offering, part medicine, made from frankincense and myrrh, from cinnamon bark and juniper berries, and raisins soaked in wine, a dusting of cardamom, a pinch of calamus root, and lotus petals, dried and crushed, folded gently into the blend. Each ingredient added with care, each stirred under moonlight, each spoken over with words of praise. A priest stands near the altar. His movements are slow, practiced. He wears a linen robe, bleached white by sun and prayer. His head is shaved. His skin glows faintly with sacred oils. He lifts a small spoon of Kai-Fi, lets it fall into the brazier. It hisses faintly. A whisper, not a cry, and the smoke begins to bloom. To the ancients, this was not just fragrance. It was communication. Smoke was breath, and breath was life, and life belonged to the gods. As the Kai-Fi rose, so too did the prayers of the people. Each plume, a sentence. Each swirl, a syllable. The temple is not empty. Others have gathered. Initiates, perhaps, or lay people seeking blessing. They kneel, or sit cross-legged on the cool stone. They close their eyes, They inhale slowly, not from need, but from invitation. The scent is thick but not heavy, sweet but not cloying. There is something ancient in it, something familiar. Even now, it lingers in the chest, then slips behind the eyes, where thoughts become slow and soft. It is not a trance, not quite. It is a widening, a deepening, a soft murmur in the soul saying, "Be still, be open, listen." We might call it altered consciousness, but for the Egyptians, it was simply connection to Ra, who rides the solar bark, to Thoth, who writes the names of stars, to Hathor, whose joy lives in scent and song. They believed the smoke allowed them to hear what could not be spoken, to sense the presence of ancestors and of gods who moved not with feet, but with fragrance. The architecture of the temple was designed for this: narrow passages, high ceilings, carved chambers that funneled light and air, so that smoke would drift exactly as it should, not escape, but dance, so that every visitor, every worshipper could be wrapped in it, held by it, softened. There are scrolls, ancient writings, that list the uses of Kai-Fi as medicine to soothe the chest, as balm to lighten grief, as aid to sleep and gateway to dreams. One scribe wrote that to inhale its smoke was to feel the sun set within the heart. Another claimed it could untangle sorrow. In some rituals, priests would circle the worshippers 3 times with the burning brazier, each pass releasing more smoke, each pass drawing them deeper into that twilight place where silence speaks. They would then speak words in soft rhythmic cadence, hymns, invocations, stories of gods reborn from night. But mostly, they let the smoke speak. To get high in ancient Egypt was not always about joy or escape or curiosity. Sometimes it was about grief. A mother mourning her child might come to the temple alone and sit in the smoke until her breath calmed, until the ache in her throat fell silent, and she could, for a moment, remember her child not with pain, but with peace. Sometimes it was about love. A young man seeking courage before asking a blessing for marriage. He might inhale the kaifi until his heart slowed, until his thoughts gathered and he remembered the name of his beloved as something sacred, not scary. Sometimes it was about the unknown, the sick seeking visions, the lost seeking direction, the dying seeking comfort. Kaifi did not promise answers, but it promised presence. And sometimes that was enough. There were no clocks in the temple, no bells, no interruption. time moved as smoke did, unhurried, circular. 1,000 years could pass in the span of a single prayer or a single breath. Let us sit here a little longer. Let us breathe. Let the smoke curl around our thoughts and loosen the knots that hold them. Let the scent remind us that the world is full of unseen things, unspoken things, things best felt, not told. Let the temple be not a place of worship, but of rest, of renewal, of stillness. And when we rise, as we must, let us do so gently, like smoke rising, not to vanish, but to carry with it the memory of incense, of light, of peace. You have now entered the deeper chamber. The altar is behind you, the world beyond. But for now, you are here, where the smoke still curls, and the gods perhaps still listen. Drinks of the divine. The Nile rests still beneath the velvet hush of dusk. Its waters, silvered by the fading light, mirror the first stars, soft sparks in the deepening sky. Somewhere nearby, in a grand house nestled within flowering walls, a quiet celebration is beginning. Not loud, not wild, but slow, ritualistic, and steeped in something older than memory. Here, wine flows, but this is not the wine of merrymaking alone. This is sacred drink, infused, enhanced, lifted with lotus and other forgotten herbs, whose names now drift only in whispers. The vessels are clay, hand-painted in soft reds and golds, some with the figures of dancers, others with the eyes of Hathor, goddess of joy, of intoxication, and of that strange, weightless feeling that comes just before sleep. The host is a scribe, perhaps, or a priest, or someone of means but quiet temperament. He pours slowly. The liquid is deep plum, thick with the scent of crushed petals. The guests are few, reclined on cushions, their sandals left at the edge of the room. Their laughter, when it comes, is gentle like birds in reeds. A young woman lifts her cup, not in haste, not in thirst, but with something closer to reverence. The first sip is small. The wine is warm, earthy, spiced, and somewhere within it, a bitterness, delicate and bright. That's the lotus. The effects are not sudden. They do not knock or demand. Instead, they meander. The body softens. The mind loosens its grip. Thoughts slow. Shapes seem more vivid. Voices acquire a glow. This is not drunkenness. It is drift. A kind of dreaming while awake. Ancient records, though rare, hint at these drinks. They speak of wine steeped with mandrake, with poppy, with the blue lotus and other plants lost to time. They were brewed for ceremony, for communion, for speaking with the dead, or perhaps with oneself at certain feasts known as festivals of intoxication. These drinks were consumed in great numbers, but not in chaos, in communion. These gatherings were held in honor of Hathor, goddess of ecstasy, fertility, and divine madness. One myth tells of how she was calmed, pacified by a flood of red beer, a drink that mimicked the color of blood and brought her from wrath to laughter. And so, each year, people drank to forget sorrow, to remember joy, to touch the gods. We return now to our room. The air is thick with incense, not overwhelming, just enough to notice. Someone plucks at a harp. The notes are slow, deliberate, the kind that hang in the air, like scented smoke. A guest begins to speak, not loudly, but with depth. His words are not about politics, or work, or duty. They are about dreams, symbols, the shape of the moon when it rises over the palms, and the others listen, not with judgment, but with a kind of open stillness. Wine does not erase, it reveals softly. In moderation, it uncovers what was buried. In ritual, it honors what was sacred. The Egyptians knew this. They were not careless. They drank to dissolve walls, not to abandon them. Outside, the moon has risen. Its light spills over the courtyard, onto the mosaic floors, through the open doors of the home. Shadows of vine leaves dance on the walls, and the breeze carries the scent of myrrh, dates, and wine. In some villages, this ritual was simpler. A father might sip wine beside his wife. After a long day of threshing grain, they might speak softly of their children, of the stars. And there too, the wine would ease them, not into chaos, but into calm. The high of the drink was not measured in euphoria. It was measured in peace, in laughter that came not from jokes, but from the shared stillness between friends, from memories returned and fears quieted. Some scrolls hint at dreams had after such feasts, dreams of floating above the Nile, of conversing with hawks and crocodiles, of receiving messages in the form of blue light. Perhaps they were dreams, perhaps something else. To the Egyptians, the difference was not always important. The drink did not belong only to the elite. In harvest festivals, wine infused with herbs was given to laborers, a sign of gratitude. They drank slowly beneath the stars as musicians played reed flutes nearby. They drank not to forget the toil, but to soothe the body, to celebrate survival. And in temples, priests would offer such drinks to the gods themselves. Vessels left on altars, beneath the watchful gaze of statues, with gold in their eyes and flowers at their feet. Even Ra, it is said, enjoyed the offering of wine, for wine, to the ancients, was not a sin, it was a sacrament. And so now, centuries later, we can imagine them, these people, these moments, where someone like you sits in soft light, a cup in their hand, a dream stirring behind the eyes. They were not so different. They longed for calm, for connection, for meaning. And so they drank, not recklessly, not in excess, but with intention, to soften the edge of waking, to slip, if only briefly, into something gentler,